And I think you've got a few slides for us here. And we'll keep it interactive. So if you have a question, please, I know we'll probably have quite sophisticated investors here today. So I look forward to the questions. And Andrew, the stage is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Arnie. It's great to be here in Frankfurt, and thank you to Bjorn for organising the event. I'm here joined with Krista Mahingo, who's our in-country director for Tanzania. We've been in Europe now for just over 10 days. We're down at Brussels at the EU Commission's forum, which was a great event for us, and very nice to come into Germany. Obviously, our major funding party here with KfW is here in town. So, look, very nice. Nice to be in a room full of shareholders, hopefully all happy. Hopefully the portfolio is green, but looking forward to running through the presentation. And as Arnie has said, try and keep it pretty lively, and also any questions we can go through. The presentation deck, we'll flick through it, so we should cover most aspects of the business. I think we've got some questions. We'll have time at the end, Arnie, for question time. So I must begin with the disclaimer that you all have, which is part of the ASX rules for going through presentations. As you know, our business is vertically integrated. We're here very focused on the development of the upstream, very close to finalising all the technical work programs on the development of the mine. The midstream development, taking that natural flake graphite, producing it at Epanko, shaping it, and then using our own purification, developing our EcoGraf HF-free purification to purify it. And the value proposition when we combine the whole vertically integrated business is really significant, and step through that today as well. And more recently, as you all know, we've been doing a lot of work on recycling, which is an increasing important topic across the globe, but no more here than in Germany. We've got a very experienced board that you're all familiar with. Just some background: Robert Pett is our chairman, very established director for the company. He's built 13 mining operations. He built the Golden Pride mine, the first commercial mine in Tanzania. And we've got a very experienced board and project team to be able to deliver the projects as we go into the development. We've just appointed Clayton Hewitson, who is ex-South 32. He's going to lead the project development, very experienced practitioner as well. Very encouraging to see the increasing shareholding from our Frankfurt listing. The BNP nominee account is now over 41%. Won't go through we all know the geopolitical drivers, the tariffs, the EU Green Deal. We are seeing greater restrictions on graphite coming into Europe, and I think that's helping drive customers think about a new supply chain. We're going to see continued legislation from the EU supporting new supply chains, and that's really important for what we've developed and the investment that we've made to date to develop our downstream development. Step through the business, the upstream natural flake graphite, it's a high grade deposit, and we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. The midstream, the mechanical shaping, we do see about a 1.5% increase in carbon grade, and the purification using our HF-free to develop battery grade graphite, 95.95 is really begins with the nice high grade graphite from Epanko. I've just got a little video you may have all seen that steps through the business, but I'll just talk through it. This is the upstream business. I'll play the full video if we later on that flies through the plant, but this is on the basis of the completion of the front end engineering that we've done through our MET-C. It's a state-of-the-art plant that really has been designed on the base of all the metallurgical work and the deposit at Epanko. It's a crushing milling flotation circuit, and it'll produce 73,000 tonnes of natural flake graphite, some of the best quality graphite in the world, we believe, and the highest quality. We've been, this is the ridge of Epanko. The deposit's 200 metres wide. As you'll see, I think it's important, the area is heavily impacted by subsistence farming. So environmentally, it's very good. You'll see the graphite zone, 200 metres wide, draped over that same ridge. That's a 20-year mine life that you're looking at. This is coming back into the valley. The mine is off to the right. We've done an enormous amount of work on the global industry tailings management to meet Equator principles. We've spent the last 12 months. We've been in the Epanko community for a long period of time, and very supportive, and very pleased that Krista's here to give you some background on Tanzania and you know, how we've been integrating with the community. The development of the project's going to have enormous impact, but we'll take the mine process, manufacture, recover natural flake graphite, and then we're going to export natural flake graphite, but we'll also look at mechanically shaping that graphite into spherical graphite. We've got growing interest in this material in Asia, and then we're going to export a spherical graphite and put it into our purification downstream facilities. And the vision is really not one, but multiple purification hubs across the globe. This is our product qualification facility. We've done a lot of work on the development of the downstream. We're very close to the breakthrough in finalising, and looking forward to going through the costing basis for that. So that's an overview of the business, which is very nice. We signed the framework agreement, Krista and myself, in 2023. The government owns 16% of the project. As you know, it's located southwest of Dar es Salaam. We're working through the financing requirements of the $105 million US that we've mandated KfW. We're very pleased that we've received finally the life of mine, very special endorsement from the Tanzanian government to give us a life of mine license. We can expand production. The deposit that you'll see goes on for a long period of time. So having that life of mine is really important. The rigorous due diligence that we've completed over the last 2 years has been enormous. And that's not only important to the bank, but to us shareholders as well. So when we develop this project, it's going to be sustainable, profitable, because the project's been de-risked from a technical engineering perspective. And also for the EV customers and battery manufacturers, they don't want to invest in new supply chains that go broke. They want to see long-term stable supply of new supply chains. And it's really nice to see Equator principles and EV manufacturers now taking more notice around the tail storage facility. You know, the Brazilian iron ore failures was really impacted the way we build tail storage facilities in the globe now. The EPCM contract is underway. We're close to finalising all the documentation for the finalising the debt.
Andrew,
Yes.
Could you just explain the EPCM? I don't know if everybody's familiar.
It's the way we'll construct the mine is under an engineering, procurement, construction management contract. We think that there's potential savings, and it's much more certain pathway for us to do the EPCM. So that is underway, and obviously we've met with ThyssenKrupp while we've been in Germany. They've been long-term supporters. We've got an off-take agreement with them. Very supportive of our graphite out of Tanzania. KfW and working with POSCO. All right, so I might call up Krista if that's okay, just to go through some of the government aspects, if that's okay, and then ask Krista to come up and we'll step through.
Okay, so I will take you through what EcoGraf is doing in Tanzania, but basically the level of support and collaboration that we are getting from the government. From this slide, you'll see a couple of pictures, actually when the Germany president visited Tanzania with the delegation, but also the other picture is us at the State House in 2023 in Dodoma, when we were just signing our framework agreement with the government. So basically our president, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, He has been very supportive generally of investments in Tanzania. You could see that currently the Ministry of Minerals has been contributing more than 10% to the GDP in Tanzania, which we have exceeded the target that was put by the government. And all of this is coming because of the support that the president is bringing into mining investments. And we could see the likes of BHP coming in country, Shell, and other big companies. And that's through the level of trust that the president has put for investors in country. I'll talk about infrastructure in the next slide. So our project is located in a region called Morogoro. In the region, we have a very good connection of infrastructures that are going to support our mine project. Start with the Great Ruaha Bridge, which is connecting from Dar es Salaam, Kumi to Ifakara and then Mahenge, where our project is located. And this bridge has been co-funded by the European Union, about $62 million, and this shows the level of support that we are having from not only our government, but also from the European Union. We also have the power station, the Ifakara substation, which is also funded through the European Union. It is the main station that will be drawing our power, and we are hoping that the transmission line will be constructed from Ifakara to Mahenge, where we'll have a substation that will have a distribution line to our project area, which is 9.9 kilometers in Epanko. We also have the Julius Nyerere hydropower station, and this is the main powerhouse that is powering the Ifakara substation. And it also has the capacity of even exporting power to other countries. And this is all hydropower, so it's a green energy, very supportive to our project. But also currently in Tanzania, we have the electric train, which is passing in Morogoro region. They have started to transport various cargo consignment, and that's very positive for our project. On the next stage, when we finally start to use the train, I believe this is going to be of our advantage. As what Andrew said, we are adhering to the international standards when it comes to environmental, social, and governance. So our project has a positive impact to the community through various, first, our engagements from the grassroots, capacity buildings, but also on the economic growth. We are expecting to contribute more than $9 billion, which is going to be contributed to over the 40 years that we're expecting to be mining in the Epanko area. But also we're expecting to have 300 direct employees and 4,500 indirect jobs, which will obviously support the local communities. We have jointly with EcoGraf and Azurite founded an event called Pre-IWD, Pre-International Women's Day event, that is focused on supporting women in mining and extractives, but also women living in the mining communities, starting from Epanko. And we have done a couple of programs with the Epanko women to just support them economically. And just back to the infrastructure, as I've shown you previously, we had the Ifakara substation, and we are hoping that we'll be using 2.8 megawatts on our first stage, which will be producing 73,000 tons per annum. And that is already covered on the power supply agreement that we are currently finalizing with TANESCO. TANESCO is the authority for power in Tanzania. But also on the road and rail logistics, the Mahenge, the Dar es Salaam to Ifakara road is all tarmac road, and it supports all the heavy trucks. And currently, the Tanzanian Authority for Roads is finalizing the construction of Ifakara to Mahenge Road. So at that point, we'll have the fully tarmac road from Dar es Salaam port to our site. And also on the port logistics, we will be exporting through the Dar es Salaam port. It is the biggest port in Tanzania. So we are really hoping that all of these logistics, all of this infrastructure will be supporting our project logistics to go smoothly. Thank you so much. Andrew, welcome.
Very nice. Thank you, Chris. That's very nice. And the power coming from the hydropower is less than 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's incredibly low cost energy, low carbon generated energy as well. So
One question. Just about Tanzania. Basically, I don't know how big is the country? How many people live there? And the economy, is it growing? What about the growth rate every year?
Oh, okay. So I have to be sure of the number, but currently with the last census, we have 60 million people in Tanzania. So it's a big country. In terms of the growth economically, I'll have to confirm the number.
Okay.
Because, it's statistics. We can't just give
Yeah, of course. Okay.
So I'll get that to you soon.
Perfect. Maybe one thing you also want to mention on the economics is the alignment with the US, Kamala Harris visit, because there's been a lot of controversy also with China funding projects, just in the EU. So maybe a comment from your side, Andrew, on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tanzania is a hotspot for critical and battery minerals in East Africa. There's a lot of interest coming in on the back of that endowment, not only graphite, but lithium, rare earths, niobium, cobalt, copper. There is a lot of interest, strong interest from Germany because the history with Tanzania, but certainly being recognised by the US government as a strategic location in East Africa. And we're seeing growing interest from Korean companies and also the Japanese as a vital location for critical minerals. So we're very pleased with our developments because I think it's very suited to those 4 key markets as an alternate to China. So this is, you've seen this image before, just want to step through it. It's the whole deposit, the 5.5 kilometers. The SML covers the whole endowment. So from a planning point of view, we can look at expansion capability. I think the resource speaks for itself in terms of size, and the small area that we're tapping into for the initial mine life has huge potential to be expanded. One of the interesting things for us is, as a result of the due diligence, 82% of our ore reserves are proven under the JORC code, or the Joint Ore Reserve Committee code, that we have to operate under reporting mineral resources to the Australian Stock Exchange. We report to this code, and proven is the highest level or the highest confidence. And the nice thing about having a high percentage of proven, not only is the tons and grade estimated, we have a high level of confidence, but all the other key fundamental factors have a high level of confidence. So the process recovery is flake size, and we think Epanko will be the lowest cost feedstock for the lithium-ion battery market. And we've done a lot of analysis on this, and we think that this is the key fundamental for viability, operating cost, proximity to port, rail option as we expand into the future. The reserve grade is important. High grade, not too low, not too high, just right. The thickness of the deposit, as pointed out, gives a very low strip ratio. 0.3 waste to 1 ore. This is not a gold deposit, so it can't get a stripping ratio of 16 to 1. So 0.3 to 1 is incredibly low. The flake size distribution is important because graphite is both flake size and carbon grade. So we sell our large flakes into very high priced markets. Process recoveries, 94.7, which means of the graphite processed, 100% of the graphite processed, we get 94.7 back, and very high carbon grades, 96 to 98%.
Andrew, could you give a bit of context? Because yes, those numbers look very positive, very strong, but how does that compare to other projects in the graphite space currently, especially on ore reserve, the average thickness and the flake size?
Well, we've got the highest flake distribution. We've got the largest development-ready mineral resource. It's a combination of these factors all stacking up to show commercial viability, but also salability of the graphite, the gangue minerals.
But if you take Novomont graphite, for example, in Canada, yeah, how would that project compare to these numbers?
Oh, look.
Yes,
I don't want to talk about other projects, but you can easily look at what their strip ratio is, what their grade is. We think there's rules of thumb that you want to be in with these core factors. We think that this is fundamental factors to determine commercial viability, profitability. So yeah. So this is the Epanko mine layout. I won't play the video. It's available online. Extensive engineering studies all completed now. The drilling resource estimation. We've delivered a new oxide first mining strategy. Just the low cost mining upfront to pay back the capital, pay back the bank. Has been the strategy. You can also see the tail storage facility. This is the flow sheet. I've got the video. Do we want to just fly through the video? It goes for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's a fly through of the plant. It's spoken to. I think it's online.
We'll call a vote. Huh?
Yeah,
anyone who's for the video, please raise your hand.
Fly through.
Okay,
fly
I think
through.
we've got a majority. A Swiss,
Excellent.
you know, the Swiss are all about voting. So
yeah.
Whenever in doubt, you just
Okay.
call for a vote.
We fly through. Hopefully the video plays now. Very good. That's a movie that's available on our site, and the team's very proud of that. It's a really good overview of the development. Another perspective of it is the plan on the left-hand side, where you see the two pits, the tail storage facility sitting in that valley, a natural facility, a natural landform that will host that 8 times the capacity that we've got for the first 20 years. So enormous long-term capacity. Knight Piésold is the leading engineering firm to undertake the TSF design, and that's been the biggest work program in the last 12 months that's completed. And as you saw, the process flow sheet, the plant's been undertaken and designed on rigorous flow sheet, and the completion of all the pre-development programs now behind us, completed for the due diligence process. So the project's in very good standing. We think it is the best project, the lowest cost feedstock based on the modifying factors, the operating costs that we estimate from the development. But most importantly, it'll be developed to the highest ESG standards, equator principles, as I mentioned, the GISTM. But one of the other really important standards is the Responsible Mining Association standards. That's the standard for the EV manufacturers that we have to report to, or they have to report to. So we're developing the whole supply chain. We're not going to dilute the standing of taking our natural flake graphite at this high standing down into the supply chain and diluting the high ESG. So all the midstream and the downstream will be developed at the same standards, and the funding that we're pursuing for the downstream will be a similar standing of funding. So we take the natural flake graphite. We're going to look at mechanically shaping it Ifakara. It's on the transport corridor, 75 kilometers from the mine. It's right next door to the substation that Krista pointed out that the EU funded. It's going to be energized by the Nairi hydropower that's come on full stream now, so there's no power concerns at all. Over 2,000 megawatts of available power into the grid. And it's going to optimize the supply chain, because through the mechanical shaping, we lose about 40% through the shaping of the graphite into these very fine particles. So there's a logistics efficiency of just exporting a spherical graphite. The development is going to be the first value addition in Tanzania, we believe. It's one of the reasons why we're getting strong support from the EU Commission, which I'll talk about shortly. But it also supports the government Vision 2030. Africa needs, and is now recognising that they do need to get more of the supply chain from their critical minerals. So we think we've got a very good plan here. We've done extensive work over the last 5-6 years through batch scale tests, piloting programs, and we're working with a range of customers to bring this development into fruition. It'll come after the development of the mine. 3 to 6 months after the development of the mine, this facility will be producing spherical graphite. We're getting growing interest in the development of this spherical graphite as a result of people looking for non-Chinese graphite. We've just completed an engineering study on 20,000 tonnes. The capex is quite modest, 58, just under 60 million. Operating cost, $419 a tonne. We think that is incredibly competitive. And when you think about our operating costs at the mine, and as you'll see, when you accumulate that with the purification costs, we've got an incredibly low development cost of the whole vertically integrated supply chain. So we're quite excited about this development. We're getting growing support from it, from a range of customers. We're looking to secure conditional financing in a similar arrangement that requires proper due diligence, proper work programs be undertaken that ensures this is developed at the highest standards. We're finalising the offtake, and the next steps is really finalising the engineering programs, the environmental and project execution planning for the site in Ifakara. As I mentioned, the European Union Tanzanian delegation has recognised our project as really a project of significant status. We're expecting an announcement around that support. But I think if you look at what happened last week, we were a project of major importance. We were the first, Krista and myself presented at the EU conference, and we were the first one kicked off as a result of what we've established. Tanzanian graphite, the midstream, and a supply chain into Europe. We're going beyond value addition. Value addition, we're thinking deeper, how we can develop more materials in Tanzania to support the European industry. Green steel is important. Graphite is a carbon additive, so it's really important. We think there's an opportunity how carbon could assist agriculture, grease manufacturing, all this cheap Chinese product coming into Tanzania, Africa, when they've got the product at the back doorstep. And the humble pencil, we've been on focusing about the pencil. It's sort of symbolic of education, the humble pencil, but we think it's a signature and a sign of the industrial revolution or the industrial opportunity that is really upon us in Tanzania. And we're working with Tanzania to make a greater difference. So that's the midstream. I'll now go on to the downstream. We've developed our own purification, as you know. We've just recently received the Australian patent for our second patent. We've actually just, we're in the process of protecting some of the minor modifications we have recently achieved in our piloting project. The global expansion of EV is going to demand new purification of graphite outside of China. China is the only place in the world where you can get commercial purified spherical graphite. That will change. There'll be hubs in Europe, there'll be hubs in Asia outside of China and in the US. And we think we've got the most successful and cost-efficient new process to do this. We've done a lot of work around the product qualification facility, and you've seen announcements around the commissioning, the operation of that, the grade we're achieving. We've reported the benchmarking against engineering studies. We don't want to build something that goes broke, you know, builds a new process that doesn't perform at the standard. So our strategy on the downstream is really to partner, a joint venture. We're thinking about partnering with the supply chain in the European, Asia and US markets, because building the mine, the midstream and the purification all by ourselves is just too much. So we are thinking quite openly about strategic partnership. We've done extensive product testing, if you've followed our announcements, and we've got technical and commercial agreements in place. I've got a little, we might take the vote again, Arnie, if we want to watch the video. This is a short, it's available on the, we've got a thumbs up. I've got a thumbs up. I'm going to go with a thumbs up. That was the first one. So
Okay. Anyone in favor of the video?
Yes. Aye. Excellent. Oh, we should have a shareholder meeting here.
Yeah.
Get everything through, Arnie.
Graphite represents about 50% of total minerals in a lithium-ion battery. Not just any graphite, but a shaped and high-purity product with strict chemical and physical specifications. Existing purification methods use processes that pose significant environmental issues. Alternatively, EcoGraf has developed and US patented HF or hydrofluoric acid-free purification technology that has positive environmental and cost benefits. To demonstrate our purification capability, EcoGraf has commissioned a state-of-the-art product qualification facility, or PQF for short, which is the first of its kind globally.
The technology has been developed over the last 7 years through an enormous amount of work by our team in Germany, in Australia.
The technical data generated will be pivotal for the preparation of engineering inputs into an integrated commercial scale facility and subsequent location studies with prospective customers in Europe, North America and Asia.
The product qualification facility is the final step to satisfy customers of the continuous nature of our innovative purification technology.
Graphite feedstock for the commercial scale facility will be sourced from the company's Epanko project in Tanzania, the largest development-ready graphite resource in Africa. The graphite will be mechanically shaped at its proposed spherical graphite facility in Tanzania and exported to localised HF-free purification facilities in the global battery hubs. EcoGraf has announced yields of purified spherical graphite at a grade of 99.99%, or 4 nines. The results are a significant achievement, exceeding battery-grade purity of 99.95% carbon required by anode manufacturers.
In Perth, Western Australia, yes. Yep. So we're at the back end. We're finalising the final test work. We think we're on the major breakthrough to finalise the final flow sheet that will also help lower the planned reported cost that we've reported already. So we've done a lot of work around equipment selection, materials selection in the process, and we think we've got the best competitive alternative to HF outside of China. So it's really an exciting opportunity for us. The team's been at it. We've been at it for a long period of time. This is a project history. If you go back to 2015, it's a long.
Andrew, we might cast a vote on it. Anyone been invested since 2015 already? Okay, one person. Anyone since 2020? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so
that's a nice survey. So really, the PQF is going to really give us the bottom there, the cost estimate to be updated in Q2 for this process flow sheet. And it's also got the ability, not forgetting the work that we've done previously, we can purify other feedstocks as well. Our preference is our own because we think it's the best graphite. But politically, in these locations, people want to develop their own mines in localized regions. So we think that's got the versatility. It's a very, very powerful process. Won't go through. Are you all familiar with the process advantages that we've developed. I think this next slide is really the one to focus on. We have reported in the past, but these are, and not many people really, I don't think, figured it out, but there is 3 known purification methods in the world to purify natural flake graphite, natural spherical graphite. High temperature chlorination, ultra high temperature, which is both thermal methods, and the Chinese hydrofluoric acid, HF, hydrofluoric acid, and they do a hydrochloric acid wash at the end of it. We've done a benchmarking study to compare our purification based on 25,000 tons to be able to estimate the operating cost versus those costs in a common location outside of China. So we're comparing purification capability, and when you look at what we've already reported, the market really hasn't picked up on, we're at $750 a ton, which is about 30 to 40% lower than HF outside of China. Now, this is HF outside of China. Now, HF in China is probably around the same $700, $800. So China's producing this material using HF, but they can't use this material in the supply chain because of the low ESG sustainability. So there's going to be a point in time when the EV manufacturers look at the anode supply chain and go, oh, they're operating at low sustainability levels. So pulling...
Question?
Yeah.
The cost, the operating cost, does this cost include the cost of the material?
No,
this is just
this is just the processing cost. So this is just purely the processing cost.
There was another slide, I think 10 before something, where it's about $420. The operating cost.
That's the mechanical shaping.
That's only the shaping.
That's the shaping. Only the shaping.
The shaping is
yeah.
included in the operational.
This is just purification cost.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll summarize that at the end because that's quite important to figure, because when you look at the organic growth potential we have, the value proposition is enormous. It's not about just developing one purification hub. It's about servicing a whole range of customers across the globe. When they realize that the HF method, I don't know if anybody's watched Dark Waters, Teflon story in the US, HF getting into the water, the sheep growing 3 eyes. It's a horrible asset. There's nowhere. Europe's banned the storage of it. There's many states in the US that ban it. In Australia, we can't even do test work using HF. So trying to develop a purification capability that the Chinas currently have adopted, I think it's impossible. There's no way you can develop. They're currently producing 300,000 tons of purification in China. I think it's impossible. So our process flow sheet, we're on the brink of being able to even reduce that further through some of the test work and improvements that we've had through the PQF. And it really is an exciting part of the business that is. Look, we've been at this for too long not to continue, and what drives us is the value proposition of connecting the mining and the downstream. So I think there'll be very positive news flow on all aspects of the business, the financing, the midstream and the downstream. But I think obviously everybody's waiting for the financing. But I think credible partnerships will also lead to the recognition of the value proposition that we've developed in this. And you've got to think past stage one. Stage one at Epanko is 73,000 tons. We've got the ability to double that, triple that, quadruple that. But there's no point doing that now because the market just can't take it. So we just have to be patient and wait for the market. I think we're starting off with the right amount of production and the downstream production as to Arnie.
Excuse me, it's the first time I've seen these figures of operation costs and cost level. So that makes you confident that the product costs are really competitive to all the other competitors, like those of China.
Absolutely. I think.
I mean, it looks like it's yeah, you're producing very cheap.
This was an independent study. Yes, it was an independent study that we've undertaken, and we've got the confidence of the work since we reported that as well. So I think we've got a very competitive, versatile processing technology that can be developed in any location. We've had a couple of goes at looking at front running the market. I think, you know, we looked at Sweden. I think people, anybody in that's been around long enough, we did have a look at Sweden. That didn't quite work out the way we expected, and for good reasons. I think it would have been quite, you know, would have been quite bad for our company if we had to progress that. Obviously, Kwinana in Australia. When we decided in 2018 to look at Kwinana in Australia, supported by the Australian government, we had US $40 million to support the purification. We're thinking battery manufacturing in Australia 2025 seemed like it had a lot of merit. But unfortunately, global politics, the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022 made Australia even more challenging. Logistics plays a big impost. Australia doesn't have manufacturing. We're trying to get manufacturing in Australia. So we've had to change our strategy now. Rather than build in Australia and then try and export the technology to these other markets, we're now looking to build in the other markets with partnership, with hopefully one day to bring the technology back into Australia, but more importantly, bring it back to Tanzania. You know, Tanzania having the full supply chain makes a lot of sense, but trying to do everything in Tanzania at the moment, we're just trying to get the customers off the cheap Chinese, low sustainable production is challenging. And I think there's a lot of effort now being done in the US, the European legislation, the Green Deal. It's going to happen. We're just going to wake up.
I mean, North American, European car makers, of course, are pushing. Volvo released the materials pass or so if you buy the vehicle that you actually get a certificate of where the different materials have been sourced from, because in the end, if you have a battery that has a very high pollution footprint, you're only moving the pollution from where you're using the car to where it's been produced. And I mean, it's similar to solar panels. It's nice to have them on your roof, but if they've been produced with coal energy, very, very dirty electricity, then their overall environmental impact is a bit limited. So that's hopefully working in the favor of EcoGraf, that European, North American car manufacturers, for example, are trying to push back and create more transparency on what the overall impact has been along the supply chain.
Absolutely. And I think the message around the CO2 coming out of Europe is really gaining stronger momentum. You'll see from the next slide, the carbon footprint as a result of an EV, a European EV, a German EV manufacturer. We completed a CO2 footprint of our whole supply chain, and it's 2/3 lower than the Chinese material, and it's 1/3 of the synthetic material. One of the reasons why we're going to see greater use of natural graphite, particularly when the synthetic, you start looking about synthetic graphite being made outside in large volumes in the rest of the world. Natural has a lot of technical benefits, but also cost, and also CO2 is really important. This is the slide that we put up at with Krista and myself talking with the European Commission. Dr. Anna van der Bruggen, our purification contributed to her research, and she won the EIT award 3 years ago at the event that we attended to last year. So we're very proud of that. We're working with BASF here in Germany and also Sungil High-Tech in Korea. They're the largest battery recyclers. We think we're doing some very nice work. We're still at lab scale, but we truly believe in recycling is the future. To have this enormous volume of metals and materials not recycled, graphite is a key component, half the weight of the battery. So whether it's a lithium ion, sodium ion, a lithium phosphate, iron phosphate battery. Graphite is front and center. The only bad news for graphite is silicon batteries, solid state batteries. But this new silicon battery that they're talking about, you know, it's 10% silicon. It's not the whole battery silicon. So graphite's going to be around for a very long time. It's the most conductive mineral, industrial mineral known, and the recycling is going to play a key role. And we think we've got our strategy is really formed around the European recycling market, and the graph there showing large volume of scrap initially 2030, and then going to end of life batteries. The work that we've done with a range of customers has shown that we can put the production graphite back into the battery as a newly manufactured. So when you think about that and compare that, and we're working on some concept models that we're demonstrating to our customers, there is a really strong financial opportunity for the battery manufacturers to get involved greater in the recycling business rather than exporting the problem out to others. And that's what's being done in the industry. So we think collaboration is the solution, greater collaboration. We're only one part of it. Our focus is in the graphite, recovering the beautiful graphite and reusing it. If we don't use it back in the battery, we think there's a very good opportunity to use it in other industries, other high value industries that will play. So the benefits of partnering for the EV and OEMs is really that carbon is now included in the regulations for recycling. Looking at recovering the copper and the graphite together, we think is a better strategy, and working collaboratively together in this industry will be able to develop the recycling solutions and under long-term agreements is what we're pursuing. And the CO2 benefit, nearly almost CO2 free, the 1.6, 2.2 CO2 equivalent per coated spherical graphite, recycled material back to synthetic. So we can work with synthetic as well. So we think the future is quite bright. Obviously, the setback of Northvolt has set everything back a little bit. I think maybe 1 to 2 years, but the momentum is going to keep driving the recycling, and this is part of our DNA to support cleaner materials. So the value proposition that we present, when we can demonstrate not only the mine valuation on its own is multiple times what we've got at the moment, but when you add the midstream and the downstream and connect the jigsaw, the value proposition, it's enormous. And starting with 73,000 2020 is just the beginning. We're thinking about 150,000 tons, 300,000 tons. So when you think about 2030 above, you know, the volumes become quite large. And I don't believe there's going to be 160 new mines. I think there's going to be a reasonable number of new mines. We want Tanzania to be front and center. We think Tanzania has the best graphite and the best position to supply the world outside of China.
Andrew, could you maybe just add some revenue numbers of what that would relate to at current offtake prices? Because I mean, that's one of the challenges. There is no spot market. What would that be on the top line for EcoGraf 2030? Yeah,
look, I won't talk specific numbers, but I think when you add up the mining cost, the midstream cost that we've just reported, and the downstream cost that this material sells for, you know, $4,000 to $5,500 per ton. The margin is quite strong. We think every time you go downstream, you double your margin. So the basket price for our mine was around $1,200. The operating cost $550. So we're making around $600, $700 a ton. Going downstream, we think $1,500 per ton. So every time we can organically grow that, that's quite significant. We're we're not that far being able to put the whole thing together. And I think coming out with a number without a credible downstream partner, people won't believe us.
But if you would have a downstream partner and you have that margin of $600 at the mine, which doubles every step of the value chain, and you multiply that by 300,000, then you could have an estimate. We'll do that later then on the calculator.
But okay. Look, that's right, and that's the value proposition. So we think we've got the best cost competitive supply chain that's been undergone the strictest due diligence you can get, German government banking due diligence. The money that we've spent, we reported just earlier this year, $3.5 million on completing the environmental and social management studies. That's just one small aspect of the study, but that gives us a lot of confidence of that this is going to work when we develop it and pay the bank, reward our long-term shareholders, and provide the customers a long-term sustainable market that we can grow. So yeah, it's an exciting time. So I'm just wary of the time, Arnie. Again, just another view. Obviously, being in Europe, we're very focused on this European market, but we think about North America and the Korean market. I think I've spoken enough about that. The last slide I wanted to just touch on, and I think we don't have to take another vote, but I think it's worthwhile. You know, it's know your customer, know who we are. We're heavily invested in Tanzania. Krista is a big part of the company. She's the in-country managing director. 16% of our project is owned by the government. It's not only about our shareholders. We have to think about our community, and I think we are batting above. You know, we're doing more than we should be. But that's sort of, I guess, how we've evolved. And there's just a little video that I'd like to share with you that Krista's company, Azurite, and ourselves founded at the pre-WID, and some of the programs that have resulted from that is really rewarding and supporting the project. So, Arnie, if it's okay, I might just play this video. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
We are proud to collaborate with Azurite Management and Consultancy in founding Pre-IWD, a not-for-profit organization that hosts an annual black tie event in Tanzania in the lead up to International Women's Day. Pre-IWD celebrates and empowers Tanzanian women with a mission rooted in honoring their achievements and expanding their opportunities. The 2025 event attracted over 40 sponsors, ranging from local businesses to multinational brands. Funds raised are dedicated to empowering women in mining and business, capacity building for women in corporate leadership, and increasing awareness of financial opportunities across all sectors. A highlight of our 2024 fund allocation is the Village to Runway initiative. In partnership with Pre-IWD, we engage women from the Epanko region, equipping them with artisanal skills to produce handmade goods for local and regional markets. This initiative provides not only sustainable income, but also strengthens their socio-economic status through meaningful, skills-based empowerment. The culmination of their work was showcased at this year's Pre-IWD event, where their handcrafted materials were transformed into breathtaking fashion pieces that walked the runway.
This story exemplifies the power of community-driven development and the transformative potential of inclusive economic participation. This initiative is just one example of EcoGraf's broader commitment to making a positive and lasting impact in the communities where we operate.
Very good. So that concludes the presentation and open for questions, I guess, Arnie?
Yeah, please. Thank you very much, Andrew. And
thank you, Krista.
And we have the first question coming up.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for being here and making this meeting possible for all of us. I've collected from the community a lot of questions. Oh, thank you. Yes. The first question is, according the KfW financing and the RAP, what is the current status? What is missing from the KfW loan? Which step is missing to the final approval?
There's no step missing. We've got a process, clear process to work through. We're at the back end of that process. As we've reported, the documents have all the work programs completed. The documents are being finalised to submit to the bank, and that will allow the final steps of the process to be undertaken. So we're very confident. We're here in Frankfurt. Obviously, we've met KfW, meeting with KfW, and they're important to our development because we've mandated from the debt financing. So yeah, there's nothing missing. We're working through a process that takes a lot of time, has taken a lot of time, a lot of work that's gone into it. I think people haven't appreciated the work programs that we've had to undertake. We reported the environmental and social management just to give our shareholders, you know, the flavour of how much work we're doing, how much Krista's team is undertaking in Tanzania, the range of consultants that we've had to use. So yeah, we're on track.
Okay, we can just wait for the KfW with a success message.
Yes, I think you'll see positive announcements as we go forward, and it's not just. I think the focus on just the debt financing. There's other aspects of our business that is also going to drive growth and value proposition as well.
Okay. And according to the RAP, is this funded to the KfW loan?
Yes, the RAP will be covered by the loan. Okay. We won't be completing we've done the valuation, Krista, the valuation report's been submitted to the government. Everything's in place. So we won't be committing to the RAP until the funding's in place. So yeah.
Is a relocation process already started?
The relocation process is being completed, but no, the relocation process hasn't started. We'll start that process on financing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else?
No, they're good questions.
So I take the next questions. According to the battery anode material facility, how do you currently assess the situation regarding the BAM facility? Which location do you consider most likely at this stage? When do you expect a final decision, and when could construction realistically begins?
Yeah, I think the focus has been on Europe. That's where our natural supply chain is. I think we're not, as I outlined, we're looking strategic partnership to co-develop the project through a joint venture style arrangement. That's really the focus. So we're not where we think about the other markets as well. And I think, you know, we might see the US market partnership come on before a European partnership. I guess there's more demand in the US currently than there is in Europe at the moment. But yeah.
Do we see a site in Germany too, maybe with cooperation of the GTAI?
Yes, we've been working with the GTAI for a long period of time. We think about Germany a lot. We think it makes a lot of sense to locate in Germany. But we also think about France, East Europe. Morocco is a place of growing battery manufacturing. Spain. I think the northern European markets, I think a bit more challenging, but yeah, Germany is our core focus, and where we've got the strongest partnerships with BASF. We're also working with other German companies that we can't disclose. Unfortunately, we're working with a lot of companies that won't allow the work programs that we're working on to be disclosed. So there are other companies we're working on.
Okay. Okay. Then the next question is the partnerships with Sungil and Wines. What is the current status? Are there still active collaborations, or do we have, have they become inactive? Especially with Sungil, why has there been no update for so long time?
Mainly because we are working actively with Sungil High Tech. We visited them. Krista and myself were part of a Tanzanian delegation last month that you saw, which was Tanzania's arrangement with Korea. Tanzania strengthening the partnership with Korea is increasing. We were invited up by the Ministry of Minerals to present, and as a result, we followed up with meetings with a range of customers in there in Korea and Japan. Sungil High Tech, we're actively working with them, but sometimes there's just work and it's not newsworthy. And you know, I guess we've been at this for a long period of time, and just regurgitating old news does upset people as well. So sometimes not saying anything doesn't mean we're not doing anything. But I can say clearly we are in partnership with Sungil High Tech. We're working with them to support their recycling efforts, not only in South Korea, but also in Europe and in the US, what development plans have got there as well.
Okay, good point. North America. North America is mentioned in nearly every company announcement. When can shareholders, or we can expect new news about locations or project plans?
Yeah,
Are there
look,
any plans?
I'm hoping soon, very soon. It is frustrating when you have engagement and the slowness in follow through in agreements and partnerships. I think the US is a really important market, and as Arnie pointed out, the government visited Tanzania not so long ago, and it is a strategic interest. Raw materials from Tanzania into the US is a key focus. So I'm hoping it won't be too long before we can reveal news around our efforts in the US.
And just to add one point, and I mean it's a very long shot, but for now North America, of course, when you talk about EVs, they're not leading. I mean, they have Tesla. If you look at General Motors and Ford, they're not leading the pack. But I believe as we come to the end of this decade, there's going to be a different market coming up, and that's the eVTOL. So some of you might have seen a few videos that we've done on Joby, and that's where the US is actually leading the pack, apart from EHang in China. But in all other markets, it's Archer Aviation and Joby Aviation currently leading, and they run on batteries. And they need very high grade, specific high energy density batteries. And of course, that's early days now. But that's, of course, changing the narrative. And you just have to look at Ucore. We're processing right now. They've just secured a record funding from the government. That things could be shifting because there's new industries coming up, new players with additional demand. And of course, that's a forward-looking statement. But that might change the sentiment that the US is actually more focused also when you look to Ukraine and the drone production, things that also partially require batteries that could change sentiment overall in favor of EcoGraf.
Perfect. Well cited. And I think look, and also I think you just the new president executive orders around sovereign capability around critical raw materials. It's just been signed. I think we're going to see the US come back in a sensible manner, trying to develop their own supply chains in the US for sovereign capability.
There is writing on the wall. If you look at Joby Aviation, they built 5 aircraft so far. The first 3 went to the US Air Force and are being tested there. So you do see that there's government engagement, and the US Air Force paid $180 million, and that there's big money to be made if you look at these kind of programs. So hopefully that money will then trickle further down the supply chain into batteries as well.
Nice.
Okay. Coming back to Europe, you talked about EU financing parties last week. Do you have their expectation when we see some decisions out there?
Soon, I hope, and shortly is the response. Often, again, we're governed by those third parties allowing us to say something publicly. But obviously on the midstream, we're getting support out of further European banks to support the development. We think about the downstream. We're on the brink of finalising the flow sheet, the commercial development, and we think about European funding, development banks in Europe. So I think we're really well positioned, particularly given the due diligence and the involvement of KfW in the upstream business. So there's a lot of interest now flowing, and I think Brussels was really interesting. I think there was a report that the focus of the discussion was around real investment coming in and supporting the supply chains. Europe wants to develop their own standalone capability, and to do that, they have to put some money in.
Okay. Soon means 12 months?
Or no, I think this year is going to be a pretty exciting year for us. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a question to add on that. So further dilution, I mean, it's one thing that as a long-term shareholder, you just need to bide your time. The question then is, as things progress and you need more funding, how confident are you that there will not be any further public raise, that you will be able to fund that via the KfW and other?
We're focused on securing the debt. We've got sufficient funds in the bank to cover all the work programs. We're at the back end. We've done all the work on the ground. The downstream is large. The downstream and the midstream is largely completed. So we haven't got a large cash burn going forward. So we think that when we get the debt, strategic equity will come in, and that's in the supply chain. There's government funding also on the equity front that is available. So we're pursuing that. And we think that, you know, we've got sufficient funds without a capital raise. We've got a lot of shareholders at different pricing. I know a lot of shareholders that come in at 60 cents in the last placement. We're still at 30. So I'm very aware of that. We want to drive the share price and the value in the company to a greater level. And I think the recognition of the funding, or securing the funding, securing the partnership on the downstream, will drive that value above and beyond where we sit at the moment. I think when you look at from a peer valuation, you know, we should be multiple times higher. From a fundamental perspective, I think we should be multiple times higher. But the legacy of our history has generated where we sit at the moment. But the last capital raise was at 60 million, at 60 cents. And yeah, that was my last purchase of the stock as well. And I've got a lot of shareholders still in at 60 cents. So
how many shares outstanding right now?
400, just over 450 million shares.
And so if I compare that, for example, with Epanko, which I also think is a very good project in Peru, working on mining tailings from 100 years of mine life. They've had also massive delays, and they had to issue so many shares. They've got 750 million shares outstanding, and they don't have this kind of government support. So I think that is a good comparison to see that you do have a path forward, that you don't have to issue another 300, 400 million shares. So that's very, very positive.
We've got a great team. The board's very supportive of our developments. We've got an active board. The team has delivered an outstanding result. Chris is in country driving the Tanzanian team as a businesswoman and as a geologist. I think when you look at what we've achieved with what we've spent, we've got the lowest capital structure in the peer group now, and we've spent the least, and I think we've developed the most. You know, this is 3 businesses, 1 that we've developed, and I guess the management and the board of shareholders, we've gone through some tough times in the past. We've had to buckle down, but I think the future is very electric for us with the developments we have and the value proposition.
Mine and mechanical shaping. In some past announcements, they said the commissioning of the mine is about 18 months. How's about the mechanical shaping facility?
Construction is about 12 months. It's much shorter. We've got time with the mine development to look at the construction of the midstream. Yeah. We think about a waterfall effect from our whole supply chain, the natural flake graphite flowing into the midstream in about 3 months after production first commences at Epanko. And similarly downstream, a water flow effect.
Okay.
We're also working with the supply chain to take our natural flake, take the spherical graphite, and then take our purified spherical graphite.
How is the mechanical shaping facility financed?
We'll look at debt financing it through a European bank, through offtake, and maybe customer equity. It's not a big spend. It's 60 million. It's going to be the first value addition project in Tanzania, and potentially the first in Africa, or one of the first in Africa. So it's getting a lot of interest flowing out from governments.
But we need no capital raise.
No capital raise.
Very
yes,
fine.
yep. 60 million US. Yep. Yep.
Okay. 0 or 1 0?
60. Yeah.
Just to share, I mean, I'm not going to ask Andrew because he won't share the number, but for me, he says it's not a big number. That probably relates to the revenue and the additional upside that you see in terms of the margin.
Well, it's not a, yeah.
Right now, it is a big number.
Yes, but we'll fund that through debt financing 60% and strategic equity coming in that wants the supply chain. We'll fund that. We won't build it without somebody wanting the project. I think that is doomed for disaster. And I think we've got growing interest. We've got more volume interest in the spherical graphite than we can produce at the moment, which is a good sign. You want to go in with more demand than you have. And it's a great proposition. We've done a lot of work around it. The team's done all the test work and engineering around the development of it. It's just the location that we're just finalizing.
Okay, fine. We have a big shareholder basis, loyal shareholder basis in Germany. I think the 41% are most of Germany. And the question there is the vote power. We have 41% vote power, but we can't vote on the general meeting.
Yeah, I know this has been a topic discussion for a number of years. You can vote.
It's expensive.
Yeah, and you've got to go through that process to vote. We're governed under strict ASX guidelines, Australian Security Institute Commission guidelines. We can't favour one shareholder over the next. Paying for one shareholder to vote, we'd have to pay for all the shareholders to vote, and it cost a fortune of the company. It's something on our mind. We've got an increasing shareholder base over here, and one of the reasons why presenting this time around, because 41%, essentially Germany's picked up our largest shareholder that liquidated their position. Most of you'll know Colonial First State had a funds management under First Sentia. It was a $400 million fund. Mitsubishi bought it in 2018 and was recently liquidated. Mitsubishi needed to liquidate about $4 billion of cash. So unfortunately, our holding in that fund was with 50 other diversified holdings. They all got sold on market, and ours was sold slowly, painfully over a long period of time. And pleasingly, it's been picked up by German shareholders and at much lower levels than what we're trading at the moment. So we recognise that it's obviously going to grow. Our strategy into Germany is growing the downstream purification, strategic partner, recycling. Germany's an important partner, the greatest partner to one of the greatest partners to Tanzania as well. Long history, a lot of social engagement as well. Yeah.
I mean, what you can do, of course, is open up a broker account in Australia, and that, of course, has a certain limitation because you can't do that for €1,000. But
maybe we move the headquarters of EcoGraf to Germany.
Yeah. Look,
that you set up a separate entity in the US.
Look, we did enter into the US market. It was really driven on the recycling business. We thought with recycling there would be a greater interest, but we just didn't see the business take off the way it did. There's growing costs associated with that. So we have removed ourselves from the US listing. And that was a bit of disappointment, but I think we gave it a go. We thought there is an opportunity there. We might look at that in the future. But the ASX is the fundamental listing for us. The Frankfurt is a secondary listing.
2 questions remaining.
Excellent.
Is there something new about energy and the nickel project and Ashanti Gold? Do we have there an update?
Energy was a great opportunity, and we did that in our spare time to create value for shareholders. And we did it at a time when the nickel price was going from $20,000 to $100,000 a tonne. Unfortunately, the legal aspect of the listing took us through that 100,000 back down to the 15,000. So we missed the market of the energy. It's a very nice package of ground that we've got, non-core assets that we think has significant value. We thought the energy listing was a way of creating that value, but we didn't quite get there. We've still got the assets. We've been able, since that farm, establish a agreement with Anglo Gold on the Golden Eagle. It's a really nice agreement that we're working through, that we've got, I should say, and that will play out shortly in the future. And the nickel assets is still there, and we're looking at how we can maximise the value to shareholders on top of what we're doing on the graphite. Obviously, the graphite remains the #1 key value driver, and my board's wasn't too happy that we didn't get the listing away, and the focus must remain on the graphite assets. But as a geologist, I look at the value proposition of the discovering a gold asset or another Kabanga nickel asset. We think that the rocks are hot for another Monono deposit up from the DRC in the Kagera belt, and there's also tungsten prospectivity in that northern frontier. So we're looking, we're not spending a lot of time on it, but just seeing how we can value add it.
Okay, last question. Let us dream a bit. Where do we see us in 5 years? How many BAM facilities do we have created?
Yes, look, I'm excited about that part of the process. I think we're going to wake up at some point and the market's going to realize that they've got no graphite outside of China. And I think the US are pushing the Chinese to, ultimately they'll see the ban, they might receive a ban, and then they'll need a number of facilities. So yeah, in 5 years' time, I would be hoping we'd have built the first 1 or 2 and others in plan. We can grow the production organically at the individual facilities, but I think this is a customized product to customers. Each customer has its own specifications, physical specifications, chemical specifications, and it's quite confidential, that information. So I just can't see one facility serving a number of customers. I think they'll want to develop their own. And what also is driving the multi-purification facility is the anode recycling. I think we've got a really nice bolt-on solution for anode recycling, and the recycling might become early before the natural graphite from Tanzania. And that was really driving us in the anode recycling, because we don't want to be recycling Chinese material. We want to be recycling beautiful Tanzanian graphite ultimately in 5 years' time.
Okay, thank you there. And
well done.
You have to
standing